When we start a new file or a new project in Vectorworks, it's a lot easier if we have something called a template. We go to File, New. We can either use a blank document or we could use a document template. We could have one here. Instead of default, we could have one here called Concept, and it would have a lot of the parts that we need in our concept drawing to get started. It might have some layers. It might have lots of classes in it that would really help us out. It might even have a lot of lights in it ready to go. So we could really save ourselves a lot of time if we put some effort in, create a really nice template file, and that'll make it quick for us to get started. There we are. Now I've used my default, which has already got grid, the page size, and the scale already set for me. So just to show you how to work, I'm going to start with a completely blank file, and we'll create everything we need. Just stretch that to the right size. That's better. I'm going to set my page size so that when I start a project, it already has the correct size for printing to my printer. So, File, Page Setup, this is the one. I'm going to click on the Printer Setup button. Now this is going to be different if you're on a Windows machine than if you're on a Mac. So I'm just going to use my Mac side at the moment. Let's look at the Printer Setup really quickly, but the important thing is what's left here. So I choose my printer, size, landscape. Okay. Now the important thing is not whether this is exactly the right size for a A3 or a 11 by 17. The important thing is to make sure you got one horizontal and one vertical. No more. Exactly one of each. I'm going to show the page boundary, which is this grey border here. I don't need watermarks, but if there were any page breaks, I'd show those as well. There aren't any, so it doesn't matter whether I turn that on or off. Please do not click on this. Just let the printer give Vectorworks the leftover paper after it's taken its margins. Let's click on our Fit to Page Area button. So there's my whole piece of paper. The snapping palette has a whole lot of settings on it that are going to make it quicker for us to draw. Things like, now double click to open this dialog box. So let's start here with the grid. The grid is going to be really useful for me. If I just give it a nice big round number for the grid, it's going to make it quicker for me to draw. This is rounding to the nearest 8 inches or 200 millimeters. It's going to make it very quick to draw. I want to see the 3D axis labels. Under General, Zoom line thickness, turn that off. I don't want to snap to the areas. I want to see the smart cursor cues. I want to see the snap points. Turn this on here, nearest point on edge. That's quite often turned off, so turn that on. I like to have 45, 30 and semicolon 15 degrees. That'll help me the way I'd like to draw. I don't want to have an alternate coordinate system yet. Smart points. So acquire smart point. Let's just turn some of these off. Snap to line between smart points. I find this can be a bit distracting sometimes. I think I quite like this one. If you just stop on a point for a third of a second, it'll become a smart point. I don't like to set my datum. It can be a real pain for me. Datum offset, I'm going to make 4 inches or 100 millimeters. It's going to make it easy when I put my spaces next to each other. I can have an automatic offset of 100 millimeters. Probably what I need to make is 110 to allow for my lining material. Smart edges. Let's have a smart edge. A smart edge will allow us to get close to the boundary, for example. So if I need to be 4 feet off the boundary or 1200 millimeters, I can set that as a snap to offset. It'll give me a great offset line 1200 away or 4 feet away from the edge. And I'm not going to have smart snap to distance turned on yet. So those are the quick settings that are good to change. I like these 4 here, 1, 2, 3 and number 4 down here. Those are the quickest ways for you to get drawing.